All right, let's kick this thing off. The first thing I'll ask of my panelists is if you see any comments about technical difficulties, anything related to that, let me know. Don't be afraid to cut me off so we can get that sorted out. But assuming that we are ready to go, my name is Alex Smith. I am the Marketing and PR Manager at the Security Awareness Company, an affiliate of KnowBe4. And this webinar today is called Security Awareness, Get Management to Buy In. There are obviously a lot of different issues that you can deal with as a program manager, as someone who's starting up a security awareness program, and we brought in the experts for you today. This list includes Suzanne Gorman, who is a vice president, as well as a security awareness advocate at KnowBe4 down in Clearwater, Florida. We have Stacey-Lee Messam with the Security Awareness Company. She is the Vice President of Customer Success. Then, of course, we have the Security Awareness Company founder and Chief Visionary Officer. That is Winn Schwartau. And I will allow Winn to take the floor here to kick things off. And we're looking for really a little bit of background on this topic, a little bit of background on building security awareness programs and some of the challenges that people have faced over the years.
Well, thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for joining. From a historical standpoint, I actually got involved in security awareness in the late 1980s, early 1990s, before it hit the commercial private sector realm by doing it with the governments of the United States and allied nations around the world when it came to cyber war, cyber terrorism, such as we were talking about it back in those days, trying to make the military and governments aware of what was going to be coming down the line. And some of the problems that we had back there, quote unquote, from management buy-in, was more of the senior leadership buy-in from colonels and generals, and then the civilian leaders out of the Pentagon in the US and various other military organizations around the world. However, just as you probably see today, there were always one or two or three people that seemed to sort of get it. Maybe they didn't understand all the details, but they understood the need for awareness amongst the troops, all the way up from the privates all the way through leadership. Where the pushback largely came back in those days, when we're talking about technology and how to use technology as a weapon of force projection, defense and offense, much of which has all come to fruition today. The biggest pushback in those days came from the middle. It was the captains and the majors and the baby birds or lieutenant colonels, because they were on a career path and did not want to see it messed up by these rabble-rousing cyber guys who came in talking gobbledygook, TCP/IP, and networks are going to go to hell in a handbasket, and you guys better learn how to fight wars in this way. That went over sort of well, but I did it for many, many years, and in fact, up through many of the years that I got to work with, who will be speaking shortly, Suzanne Gorman. The first real commercial effect of buy-in from security awareness, for me at least, was a friend of Suzanne's and mine named Tom Foster, and he was Senior VP of, and I forget his title, Suzanne, at Fannie Mae. Mm-hmm. And Fannie Mae, Tom got it. There were a lot of people there that really understood that they needed to have some sort of program to be able to get people to at least have a little bit of a clue of what was going on. This is a long time before phishing, a long time before all of the chaos we're seeing today. But fundamentally, the principles of awareness were the same. Now, fast forwarding through the last 30 years of doing this, I get to speak a lot around the world. And one of the questions that often comes up from the media is, Winn, what are the three greatest threats to cybersecurity today? And I'll often hear people say, well, we've got the phishing, Oh, we got the Russians, and they come up with technical challenges and VPNs that are broken or misconfigured or DNS, and they'll go off onto some technical realm. And in order to get this conversation going and to really tee up Suzanne, because she has no idea about what I'm about to say, the three biggest threats to security today manifest themselves in security with three simple words: apathy, arrogance, and ignorance. The apathy is I don't care. No, but who cares about poor little old me? What's on my machine? Who cares about my little dentist office? Who cares? If they don't care, I don't care. So it's apathy. Or the arrogance, and we've all heard it. It'll never happen to me. Just never going to happen. Nobody's ever going to get into my database. We're too good. We're too smart. No, it's fine. And I got it covered because I'm a really smart leader of my company. And those both manifest from ignorance. And in our world today, ignorance means that you're not even reading yesterday's or today's news. Everything is changing so fast, so quickly. You got to stay up on all of these things in order to avoid the apathy and arrogance issues. So everybody can go on and talk about all the technical problems in the world that exist in security, many of which are very true and very valid. But when it comes to security awareness and trying to get management buy-in, your three main barriers that you've got to overcome are apathy, arrogance, and ignorance. And with that, my dear friend, Suzanne Gorman.
Well, thank you, Winn. Yes, those are three interesting risks that you bring up, and it's actually something that I've dealt with throughout my career. But I'm going to go back a little bit, and I'm going to talk to the group about things that I think that they need to think of and what they need to do to bring this forward to get the funding and the support that they need. But I'm in total agreement with you with those. And Alex, I hear echoing in my ear.
Yeah, I just heard that start. I'm not sure why. Try it now.
Okay. So everyone, I've been in this position many times throughout my career, and I must say, for you to be successful, you definitely need to have management buy-in, and you're going to have to fight them all of the way, but you're going to have to get them to become aware, and you're going to have to get them to be on your side to provide you with the proper funding and support so you can get your awareness program off the ground. I could say that, you know, for the organizations that I worked for, most of them were very well-known organizations, that I always pushed the issue of brand because that resonates with the executives. You know, I would say to them that, you know, we have to protect the reputation of the organization because we certainly don't want to show up on the front of the Wall Street Journal because of a security breach because we didn't train our employees, right? But then I would hear back from the executives saying, well, why do we need to spend this money on security awareness? We never had a security incident. And I would always respond with either yet, or how do you definitively know that you have not been breached? And 9 times out of 10, well, I would say 10 times out of 10, actually, they didn't know. So I think, you know, as you go along, you know, as security professionals, it's clear to us that we need security awareness training. It's a must-have. But you need to be able to clearly articulate this to your executive team and get them to buy in. I think, you know, when you were bringing up, you know, some of the issues with, you know, not staying current, you know, and, you know, it wouldn't happen here. I think that's the issue with executives is their false sense of security, thinking that the infrastructure that they have in place is always going to protect them. Not thinking that that one email can get through and into the organization, and one uneducated employee, that's all they have to do is click on their link, or worse yet, enter their credentials. So I guess if I had one dream, you know, and wish, it would be that every board of directors everywhere would be pushing security awareness to the executives within all of the organizations. I do think that you have to do your research. And since, you know, ignorance is, you know, that they're not staying current, you know, there's lots of statistics out there that you can help motivate your executives to realize that investing in security awareness, you know, should be a top priority for the organization. Like, for example, right, let's say a mid-sized company, they state this, will pay an average of $1.6 million to handle one phishing attack. it certainly is not going to cost you 1.6 million to train your employees. And the other thing is that when Winn and I have worked together in the past, we always went with the thought process of, we're not only going to train the employees in the office to be secure, but we're also going to train them in their home life. So we could get that fan club with our employee base. At KnowBe4, we have a proven track record that, using combined simulated phishing attacks along with remedial training and ongoing security awareness campaigns, that we can bring the phish-prone percentage down from 30% to 2% within 1 year. Those statistics work. And, if you're going to try and sell a program like this to your executives, you need to be able to use those. I think when you think about where are the weakest links, cyber criminals know that employees really are our weakest link. And they have certainly turned to social engineering because it's highly effective. And it's a subtle way to gain the employee's credentials and access to troves of data, right? But you think about it, only 3% of malware tries to exploit a technical flaw, while the other 97% target users through social engineering. So we really, really need to get their attention. I've also thought about how in the past have I done different things to make them sit up and take, focus in on the problem. And I've done simple things like cracked the password hash file to show how bad the strength of the passwords are. That's one good example. Or if you have the funding, think about bringing in pen testers to show the vulnerabilities of insecure code, right, in the web-facing applications, right? And at the same time, let your pen testers go back in there and social engineer whomever is responsible for resetting credentials, as well as your executive admins. That is a game changer. When you're sitting there doing a debriefing to a bunch of executives and you're showing them how vulnerable those groups are, and that an executive admin actually handed over their boss's credentials, that's something that will make them scratch their head. I think it's important to highlight the various layers of threats, though, to your organization. And you really need to clearly articulate the implications of an untrained employee when they're not prepared to be your last line of defense. Like I spoke before, we can have all of the controls all around, build up this secure infrastructure, and it's just that one thing that gets through that, impacts an organization. So when you get into the details of your plan, make sure that you understand what your plan is, right? You need to also think about who needs to be involved in the success of your awareness program and how it's going to be communicated and deployed to your employees. You also need to think about how often the employees are going to be phished and what's going to happen if they click on those phishing campaigns. You need to explain that they're going to go into remedial training, and they're also going to have foundational training. And I will say, try and work in some of those really cool, entertaining content, materials that are out there. Winn and I have always been of the mindset, if we can make an employee laugh or smile when they're learning, they're going to retain that information. Right, Winn? The executive team will want to know how much time this training is going to take away from their everyday work. So be prepared and have an adequate answer for them. I think you also need to be able to clearly articulate the progress and success, how it's going to be measured, so you can show back to the executives their return on investment for the company. And management will not be ready to invest until you have a thorough and solid plan in place. So those are my comments for this until we get into our chat. So am I turning this over to Stacey now, or when are you chatting again?
I can provide a bridge unless you have any thoughts on that, Winn.
Well, no, everything Suzanne said is, again, she and I have worked together now 21 years, and some of the largest institutions around certainly the U.S. and with global perspective. And things have changed drastically, but the fundamental messages, the fundamental ways to get through to people are the same. One of the things I want to add to what Suzanne said is the reason that the phishers, and I'll just focus on them for a moment, and the social engineers are so successful is because they're exploiting your emotions. It's a psychological attack that goes after fear, love. your inability to believe in yourself. There's so many psychological twists that the scam artists of the world know have adapted over to this. It's the same thing in response. We have to exploit the emotions of senior leadership in a similar way. Yes, part of it is making it personal. Part of it is putting a smile on their face, but part of it is more and more with compliance regulations getting even stricter. Mr. CEO, Mr. C-suite member, if we get nailed, your job is on the line, and there are potential for criminal prosecution down the line with many jurisdictions around the world. So there is an additional layer of emotion that needs to be used to get managerial buy-in. Over to Stacey or Suzanne.
Great. Up next, we promised you Stacey-Lee Messam. She's the Vice President of Customer Success at the Security Awareness Company. She's worked with, very large clients, and she's going to share some of her expertise from our side of things at the Security Awareness Company and at KnowBe4. So, Stacey, you can take it away.
Thank you, Alex. What I'm about to share with you is actually pretty much very similar to what Suzanne just shared, because she's been speaking to us from a customer standpoint because she has been a customer in the past. And in my dealings directly with customers, it's a challenge. And it's one that, it surprises me that it still is a challenge. Every organization is going to struggle with their security awareness program, regardless of the maturity level of their program, whether they're starting from scratch, revamping, or just continuing an already successful program. But what we find is that in order to deploy and run a successful security awareness program, you have to have the support of upper management. What I hear, the frustration I hear from the project managers day in and day out is that, they try. They try first, they have a struggle to get budget first. And then even when they do get the budget, after they get the budget, the one thing they don't have in a lot of cases is that support. And one would think that with all the recent highly publicized breaches, that leadership in every organization at this point would take security awareness training a lot more seriously. And for various reasons, they're not. And I think Winn touched on some of that, whether it's apathy, arrogance, whatever those reasons are. So here, they've given budget, and they go, okay, leave me alone, go take care of it, go, train the employees. And I think they believe that that's where their responsibility ends. And that's definitely not the case. To get employees to pay attention, to do their training, and to deem it important, we find that the culture has to be mirrored and encouraged by upper management. In a lot of cases, the project managers that I'm dealing with, it's just part of their job. It's one duty. They're not full-time security awareness professionals. And so, they're to have that fight just to get that support from management, it's a struggle. And then to get people to actually want to do training. So the challenges are real, and they don't seem to be getting any better. And meeting that resistance from management, like I said, and like Suzanne touched on, it's a hurdle to get over. When leadership doesn't show support and encouragement, like Suzanne said, and like I'm saying now, it's deemed as a waste of time to the employees, or it's just one more thing, a chore that I have to do. And it just seems that from our standpoint, that there's a false sense of security that my company's never going to get hacked. It's never, like Winn alluded to, it's never going to affect me. My organization's fine. We're secure, our network's secure, and we know what to do. So what have we done? So that's how it looks from our standpoint. Now, how have we been able to help? What do we suggest to clients that could possibly help? It would be great if we had a direct contact into the management team. That'd be fantastic, but we don't. So we work with the project managers. We give them content, sometimes to help with presentations, to try and get the executive team to try and explain the importance of them being proactive versus reactive, the fact that their support is critical. We help the project managers create a security awareness program that best suits their organization. Security awareness programs are not one size fits all. People learn differently. And so the program needs to be well planned and well executed. And so we recommend treating it as if it's a marketing campaign. You've got to market it to your users, but first you've got to market it to upper management. And one way to do, that confidence, a level of confidence that's there, that we all know what to do. We know not to click on this, and we know everybody thinks we find in these kinds of organizations, they think they know what they should or shouldn't do. So pre-assessments, we highly recommend pre-assessments, especially for the executive level team, because we find that once you go through that pre-assessment, everything you think you knew before, a lot of times we find that wait a minute, I didn't quite know as much as I thought I did. And so starting with pre-assessments is actually very, very useful. And it's an easy way to find out where everybody is. And some folks may actually be really security aware, and then others may not be. And the results are there. They're going through the training, they're taking the quiz, and they can see the results for themselves. So that we find that very, very helpful. We recommend, in terms of having a program, whether you have the buy-in or not, to make, if you get that hurdle, then it's making it fun. And I think both Winn and Suzanne mentioned that earlier. You don't want to bombard your users with too much training and don't do it too often. So we work with each program manager as much as they need our assistance, and just try to craft a program and put a plan together that management can look at and go, okay, all right, this is not going to take up too much time. You do a module, whether it's on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, and reinforce with short videos, security one sheets, posters, do things, offer giveaways, do games. And like I said, just run a campaign. And that we find those are key and valuable in having a successful security awareness program. But again, management it's not exempt. And we know with upper management, time is of the essence. And that's one of the biggest complaints. We don't have time. We travel a lot. And, they can't sit around and spend hours on end in doing training online. So in the traditional sense of it, or sitting in a room to have live training either. And so our library of content is diverse for that very reason. It includes not just traditional online training modules, but I mentioned videos before, and those can be viewed anywhere. You don't have to log into an LMS to view them. Security One sheets are newsletters. They make for the road warrior, which I believe training is even more critical in today's world, that they actually do training. It's great reading material for planes, for trains, hotel rooms. Again, it's mixing that training up and making it fun, but it's key to make sure that your executive team, that they understand the importance. Launching a program and having a video from your CISO or anybody at the C-level executives is important. It says, whether it's a video or an email to kick off your program, it just says, hey guys, this is important. It's important to us. It's important. So it should be important to you because it's important to our organization. And that's it's the only way to have a successful program. And like I said, we've all been trying to say the similar things, but the issue is there. And those are just, without executive team buy-in, it's just almost impossible to have a really successful security awareness program.
I'd like to add a comment, Stacey. You used the word correctly, training. And yes, that is a component of it. But for especially those executives that think training is useless, they think it means you're getting a CISSP, professional credentialization, or technical training. I know Suzanne and I've always said loudly, security awareness at its heart is an advertising program. When you see a Coke commercial, you're not being trained on Coke. You're being made aware that Coke exists because of an ad that attracts your attention and compels you to pay attention for somewhere between 2.3 and 7 seconds. So in many cases, a training program, if you're unable for any reason to get all of that through management, an advertising campaign with the posters, in elevators, in the lavatories, in the break rooms, that create compelling imagery and headlines is at least a start to make people aware that there is a lot more going on than merely what they have been told thus far, and that there's a lot more behind those keystrokes every time they click.
Absolutely. Thanks, Winn.
I have a question. I don't know who is seeing this. Did you guys all see the question?
Yes, I can see the question. Alex, are you ready to take questions as of yet? Or?
If there's something that you guys want to address, feel free to go ahead.
I think it's a great question.
Absolutely. Yes. Question number 2, do you have any examples of management who was opposed to security awareness efforts, who was later convinced of the importance? What ultimately convinced them? And it's funny they asked that question, because just recently, actually it's happened a couple of times now in the past year, where we've had clients who've come to us and desperately needing to put something in place. They had either somebody was phished, or there was malware, and it was this immediate, we need to get training in place. We need a license to get training in place. And when I spoke to the representative or the project manager, they had been trying for the last couple of years to get security awareness training, get budget for it. And management kept saying it wasn't necessary until something happened, until there was an attack. And at that point, when one company actually lost some money, a check was sent to the wrong bank account, because and it took that. That was it. It was enough to start them to go, okay, we just lost money because somebody sent information to the wrong place, and money was wired. And then in the other case, it was somebody clicked a link, and all of a sudden it was now of importance. So unfortunately, that's what it takes in many cases. And what we're trying to say is, don't be reactive, be proactive. Have your employees be human firewalls, be aware. And that's the goal. But sadly, it takes something actually happening for many of these organizations to actually take heed.
And I have to agree with Tracy. I've seen the same thing, Stacey, I'm sorry. I've seen the same thing, talking to some of the customers that I deal with, whether it was that they came on as customers because the hospital down the road from them went out of business because it was closed because of ransomware, or, they had a business email compromise. So yes, I see so many organizations that are so good, that are being proactive, coming on as customers, but we still do have some that are out there and they are in that reactive mode because something happened, and they could have probably mitigated those problems if they had an aware staff.
Absolutely. And there's another question here that says, what if a company has the budget but not the human resources to deploy an SAP? And one of the things that we do offer here at SAC is program management. And so we will do, like we said, we've worked to create programs we have clients who do have somebody dedicated, they have dedicated resources, and we have clients who do not. Again, they have somebody who it's just a part of, it's a duty that was thrown on them. It needs to get done, but 95% of what they do is something completely different and has nothing to do with security awareness or training, for that matter. And so we work with our clients, and we do offer that as much as is needed. So as much effort as you need from us in terms of creating. Now, we can't deploy it for you on the client side, but we'll deliver, we will recommend, we will deliver exactly what you need, whether on a monthly or a quarterly basis. And then all you have to do as the client is just send it off to your LMS person and upload or distribute it to your employees. And I hope that answered your question.
Great. So I'm sure there will be some other questions here that we can address in a little bit, but I just wanted to keep moving things forward and ask each of you, beginning with Winn, just for a short takeaway from this webinar. You can rehash something that you discussed, Winn, maybe it's your 3 words, but what is something that those watching can really take away sort of in a small package?
I'm going to stick to a group of 3 things again. And if I don't know where it is, Alex, perhaps you can point the attendees where. Several years ago, I started doing a series of presentations called How to Make Your Security Awareness Program Fail. And a lot of this was from what, well, Suzanne, we've seen a lot of crazy over the years, haven't we?
We have.
And at the top three things I got to say is, number one, make sure it is entertaining. Number two, make sure it has humor as well as being entertaining. And number three, make it personal. It's not just about your office, not just about the business. The same type of awareness behavior, and this is all about behavior modification, that you want to occur at the office is fundamentally the same thing that people should be able to do and want to do at home to protect themselves, their family, their kids, their loved ones, etc. No huge difference. We may use some slightly different terminology, but the principles are the same. So make it entertaining, make it fun, and make it personal, and you will start getting better traction with your particular audience. Over.
Great.
Well said. So
Yes.
from my point, I'd like to say that it's really important when you get your security awareness program and you're going to launch it, that you have someone at the C level send out, preferably your CEO, send out a letter on your behalf stating that, security awareness is not optional. If you have the resources that you can do some filming of the CEO endorsing the program, that's awesome. Because when you get that, this is what happens. It actually promotes involvement from the executive team, and it helps instill awareness throughout the culture of the organization, right? We're leading with example. The organization also will understand that, security awareness training, and phishing attacks are mandatory. This is not a personal attack on you to have you waste your time. But, if you get this done, that again will be part of the corporate culture. It also negates the issue of middle management, who can always be a problem. I've seen this repeatedly throughout the years, stating that they don't need training because they know everything about security, which is not true. And always, please remember that security is a journey and it never has a destination. And I can't say that enough. So you can't just go in and train your employees for 1 year or once a year and think that you're done. Like Winn was saying before and Stacey was saying before, you need to think about it with that marketing campaign in mind. Have things around, keep it always in front of them, let them always remember, and provide training that's enjoyable for them.
Thank you, Suzanne. What do you got for us, Stacey?
I'll keep it short and sweet. Everyone understands. Absolutely no one is exempt from an attack or breach. Training is the only way to guard against falling victim to an attack. And executives, and I say this again because executives, again, they feel like they're not susceptible to an attack. And in some cases, they're even more so than a regular employee, but everyone is susceptible. And only way to do this is to train, practice smart security aware behavior at work, at home, and that's the only way they're going to be able to protect themselves and their organizations from what is an avoidable security breach.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Sweet. Fantastic.
I've got one more thing. I talk with Stacey and Suzanne. They always get my brain going, and it brings me back. Oh, quiet, Stacey, please. For those of you that are, we'll say, over 40, think back to when advertising before the internet. One of the things that was when I was a kid, don't cross the street in the middle of the block. That became a cultural meme. Only you can prevent forest fires. That also became a cultural meme. Inside your organization, depending upon your culture and permissiveness, etc., all of those things, many of what we're talking about, the behaviors we're looking at, trying to change, can be a meme. And we have a lot of stickers, and you can go to the website and take a look. I'm not going to say the words on them here, but one of them is like, don't click on
It.
Stuff.
Just it.
Yeah. Or stuff. And these become memes. And I can tell you that one sticker, I just was out at Black Hat DEF CON. I gave out probably 50,000 of them. And it's simple little things like that. The meme will stick in somebody's brain a lot more than a 10-minute training exercise.
Right.
Absolutely.
Stay in touch with us. If there's anything that comes up after you share the videos or the webinar, please get back. But make sure you bug Alex first.
Yeah, feel free to bug me, Alex Smith. I'm at asmith@knowbefore.com. You can reach me regarding any questions, to this webinar or general marketing or PR for Security Awareness Company or Know Before. I guess at this juncture, I'll thank everybody for tuning in to Security Awareness, Get Management to Buy In. We will hopefully have a new webinar for you within the coming months, and we just thank you very much for sharing this with us, and we will make this available very soon. And thank you to Winn and Stacy and Suzanne. If you guys have any parting words, feel free. But I think we'll put an end to this one.
My only parting words is I've got to go register my car before toe surgery. I know everybody cares about that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, give the people what they want.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.